Rubik's Cube, a conversation with a hostile neighbour in chapter 12. Then the phone rang. It would be Clive. She jumped up, although actually there was no reason that he should phone, unless, of course, he'd had an accident. "Hello, is that Mrs. Edwards?" The voice was unfamiliar. "It's Mrs. Priest-Jones here. I've just had a most unpleasant experience, Mrs. Edwards." Oh dear, the voice was less unfamiliar now. "Your son Matthew has been very rude to me." Matt? What on earth was he doing? What was the woman talking about? As silently as she could, she eased open the front door, the telephone was just by it, and peered across the street to the bungalow where presumably Mrs. Priest-Jones was even now telephoning her. She could see a car in the drive opposite, covered in foam. Come to think of it, Matt had said something about washing a car for his friend. There was no one in sight. "They've just covered my house with cold water." "Have they? I mean, who has?" "Pouring it in through the window. We're trying to watch television, my husband and I." "There's nothing on really, is there?" Ruth said irrelevantly. "And these hooligans came along. He's with that boy next door to me. I don't know why you let him play with that boy, Mrs. Edwards, I really don't. They're a dreadful family, everyone says so, and I can't tell you the language I hear." "Really? The parents are just as bad. Now I've always thought you were a nice person, and I've seen you going in to that poor old Mrs. Owen. Did you mention the water at all?" "Of course I mentioned it. I went out straight away and told them. I said, how would they like to have water pouring in through the window while they were trying to watch television?" What did they say?" "I don't know if I can repeat it. They were so rude, especially your Matthew. I don't know why you let him talk like that." Ruth did not feel completely in control of this conversation. "And then? Do you know what he did then?" "No," Ruth said, wondering if she would regret it. "He stuck 2 fingers up at me, as cool as you like. What do you think of that?" There was a pause. "So I'm just ringing you now to tell you that if it happens again, I'm going to phone the police. I know you think it doesn't matter because we are moving away, but we haven't gone yet, and my husband won't put up with children talking to me like that." Mrs. Priest-Jones put the phone down, leaving Ruth no choice but to follow suit.